Hi everybody, this is Casey from Upcycled Island, and I have a project for you today. We're going to make, we can call it any number of things. It's going to be a top that we're going to use the top of the jeans to make, and it's kind of a tube top or halter top or a sun top, whatever you want to call it. And this is what it looks like. This is the front of it, and this is the back of it. So we just took the back of a pair of jeans, turned it upside down, and I'm going to show you how we did it. Here's our pair of jeans. Well, the top of our pair of jeans. We've already cut the legs off, and now I need to even it out. And then I'm going to cut that. Then we're going to we use the legs to make some binding. Now this is on the straight grain. It doesn't have to be bias. I made it 4 inches. And we're going to use that to make a casing to put elastic in. And I had 2 pieces, so I sewed them together. Here's a helpful hint. I sewed it together, I opened up the seams, and then I sewed down the edges on both sides. The reason I do that is because when I run elastic through, it's not going to catch on this. This is going to be flat. Wonderful way to eliminate some aggravation. Okay, we are going to put that seam on a side seam. And I always pin where I start. And then I'll use clips. If you don't have clips, just pin it all the way around. If you don't have clips and you want a clip, you can use office supply binder clips. Those will work fine. So I'm just going to take this to the end of this piece, and then go around the other side and clip the rest of it. And we got to the other side, and lo and behold, we almost are, it's almost perfect. I did not measure that. I did not plan that. But my goodness, look at that. That is what I call serendipitous. Okay, I've met those 2 together, and then where that meets, I'm going to make a pencil mark. That's where my seam's going to be. And I'm going to make that on each side. So when I take it to the machine, I'll be able to match it up perfectly. So I'm going to seam that and be back. All right. I sewed that seam together. I sewed the edges down. And we'll clip her back up. And then we're going to take it to the machine. And I'm going to take about a 3/8 inch seam. I'm going to stitch all the way around to attach this to the jeans. Okay, I have my band on. I sewed that on with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And I pressed it really, really well. And the seam allowance goes to the band side, the side of the band. I pressed it really, really well, so that's as flat as possible. That's going to help you when you go to make your casing. I'm using the edge since I finished mine edges with the serger. If you don't have a way to do that, if you don't have a serger, you can use a zigzag stitch or an overcast stitch. Most new machines have that. If you only have a straight stitch machine, then you're going to need to fold over the edge and then fold over for your casing, because you don't want a raw edge to fray and then eventually your stitching comes loose. So since I've serged mine, I'm folding it over, and you want to overlap where the stitching is on that seam we just made. And then we're going to pin it from the right side. We're going to pin in the ditch, because when we stitch this on, we're going to stitch in the ditch. So that's what it looks like from this side, from the right side. And here's the underside. Look where my pin is. My stitching is going to fall right there, because when I stitch, I'm going to stitch from the right side and stitch in this ditch. So that's why we have to overlap this stitch line. Be sure to leave yourself an opening. And I would leave an opening in the back, not at a seam, maybe just to one side of a seam, because there's going to be bulk at a seam. So leave yourself an opening. We're going to use 1 inch elastic. So leave yourself an opening about 1 1/4 inches, 1.5 inches. And when I say leave an opening, I mean start stitching here, go all the way around and stop like right there. And then you'll have an opening here, unstitched, and that's where you're going to insert your elastic. Okay, we have stitched in the ditch, and so that caught all of this. After you're through doing that, just go around the circumference of the band to make sure you caught it. It didn't slip on you, and there's not places where you missed this side. And then the next thing you do is on the edge of the band, you're going to top stitch along the edge all the way. You don't have to leave an opening on that edge stitching. You just edge stitch the entire perimeter. All right, now you're ready to put the elastic in. And I have 1 inch elastic. Actually, mine is a little bit, probably 1 1/8 inch, 1 1/4. And we're going to measure for this. I'm going to place this under my arms, atop my bosom, and I want it really tight. So I don't want any accidents. So if I just hold it, it's like this. If I pull it and give it some overlap, it is gonna stay on. I'm not gonna have any oopsies with my top falling off. So I'm gonna overlap it 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch when I sew it together. I will say, as far as measuring for your elastic, I am a small-busted woman, so I wanted my elastic very tight so the thing wouldn't fall down. If you're built better than me, built bigger than me, you might not need your elastic to be that tight. So you know your body and you know what you will prefer. So measure accordingly. And find your opening. Let's see, my opening is right here. Your opening just needs to be big enough for the elastic to go through. And you're going to insert it in your casing and push it and pull it until you get it all the way in and come out the other end. Here's what we recommend you do. Take the opposite end and pin it to your garment, to your project, so you won't inadvertently pull it through, and then you have to pull the whole thing out and start over again. We made it. Okay, we're going to pull this out a little bit more to give me room to sew it. And I'm going to sew that together. If you have a zigzag, you use that and just zigzag back and forth. I have just a straight stitch on the machine I'm using, so I'm going to straight stitch back and forth many, many times. Make sure you catch the edge, both edges. You can wear this without a strap if you want to. I cannot, because it would invariably fall. So I have more strips. These are 4-inch strips. And the one I'm going to use, I finished off my edge with the serger. I folded over, so this is folded over more than the halfway mark. And I've measured what that is. And then I press, and then I measure some more, and press, measure some more, and press, and then just keep doing the same thing. Measure and press. This little hammer is a handy tool to have. If you don't have one, put that on your list of things to get. It's just handy. If you don't have one, you can make one using a piece of cardboard or a piece of paper. Just make a mark and use that as your guide. But the hammer is really handy. I recommend having one. All right, we've got that pressed, and then we're going to fold this over, and this will fall about in the middle, and then we're going to press that. And I'm just eyeballing it. At this point, you can pretty well tell when it's right. And then don't go and unpress it like I did. So we're just about done. Now we've got it all pressed. We're going to take it to the machine. We're going to sew down the middle to sew that closed. Then we're going to edge stitch on both sides. All right, we have got our strap taken care of. We sewed it in the middle. We edge stitched it. Now we're ready to attach it to our top. Okie dokie, here I am in all my splendor. I just put this on over my top because we're just going to measure right now. And No, I'm not going to wear it with the t-shirt, but we're just for measuring. Now I'm going to make mine a halter top. And you notice it's real blousy on me, but if you're more voluptuous, it's not going to be as blousy. I like mine blousy, by the way. So anyway, it's kind of fun. All right, I'm going to make mine a halter top. So I've got my strap. And I'm going to just stick it under here and here. And I want mine pretty tight because I am not voluptuous and I don't want it to fall down. And so I'm just going to put it where I want it. And then, without sticking myself, hopefully, just going to pin it in place. And do the same thing on this side. And then I'll take it to the machine and sew it on. Now, when you take it to the machine to sew it on, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to sew right along the edge where we did that edge stitching. And I'm going to go back and forth probably 2 or 3 times. And then, see, mine goes all the way across the casing. And then I'm going to do the same thing here, and I'm going to stitch in the ditch across here to catch the bottom of that. That way, it won't interfere with the elastic and the casing, and your elastic can still move around. Same thing over here. Edge stitch and stitch in the ditch. Okay, I'm back. I've done it. Here is my top. Now see, it's blousy on me because this is a heavy cotton jean. Most of what I work with is all cotton jeans, so they're usually heavier. So it's blousy, but I like mine blousy, and I like mine longer, so I've got it sitting just on my hip line. You may want yours shorter. You may want yours to be more of a crop top. I'm not going there. And so if you do, then you'll adjust that when you do the first part, you know, when we cut it, marked it and cut it. So you will just make yours shorter. And you might want, like I said, straps to go one strap on this side and one strap on this side. You can do that. Anyway, this was a project that I thought would not work, and turns out that it did. And I'm crazy, but I like it. And if you're more voluptuous, it's gonna fit better. And if you use jeans that are not all cotton, that they're cotton and maybe some poly and some spandex, usually those fabrics are thinner, and so it'll drape better. I'm gonna make one like that, and then it won't be so blousy. Another thing I did on my other ones, and I'm gonna do it on this one too, is I sewed my pockets shut. I sewed those closed. I closed them up by stitching them. Did the same thing on the back. And the reason I did that, they're upside down, so I can't use them as pockets. I even thought about closing them up here and leaving this open so I could use it as a pocket, but it's on the back, unless you want to wear it like this, which is a thought, but these pockets are strategically placed, so I don't think I'll do that. So anyway, the reason I sewed them shut is so they wouldn't catch on something. Like, you know, if I'm going around a corner and catch on a stair rail or something like that. Anyway, So I sewed my pocket shut. And it's easier to do that before you do everything else. So that's something to think about. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this project. If you make one, let us know how it turned out. And I'll see you next time. Stay safe.